All righty, Coach Day, thank you very much for joining us. Folks, we got a lot of hands raised, so we'll go one question for this first round, and if we have time for follow-ups, we'll do that. Let's start it off. Leadoff hitter for us today is going to be Clay Hall. Clay, go ahead.
Hey, Ryan, great tweet last night, by the way. I know you're probably thinking only about football. It feels like name, image, and likeness is on the horizon. There's a big Supreme Court case that's going to impact that. Have you given that any thought, how you guys will handle it, or who will handle it for you? Or do you feel like it's still a ways away?
No, we've had very, very, a lot of talk about it. And I think there's uncertainty right now of where in the spectrum of where this thing lands, that's hard a little bit to plan too much going forward. There's kind of a wide open thing, and then there's some restrictive things, and there's somewhere in between. So until that works itself out, we're kind of in a holding pattern. Other than, we're really, putting things in motion to make sure that, we're ready to roll. We're ready to help our guys in this space, because certainly Ohio State, with the amount of exposure that these guys get and the amount of interactions we get on social media, there's going to be unbelievable opportunity for these guys in that area. So, we're going to kind of wait and see when the ruling's made, and then we'll start to implement, our support for these guys. In the end, we can't provide anything for them other than support and education. But certainly there's going to be a lot of opportunity for them.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we'll go next to Nathan Barrett from cleveland.com.
Hey, Ryan, can you kind of assess where Cade Stover is 1 year after this change he's made to tight end, and how close he might be to having a real role in the offense?
Yeah, he worked really hard this past year, but he's like a lot of these guys that didn't have a spring last spring, didn't have much of a preseason, and then played behind Luke and Ruck last year, so didn't have a lot of game experience. But this is a big spring for him. This is the time. I mean, he's got to really step up now. I think he's poised to do that. He's had a good off season. So now, we'll see how the spring goes, but we're excited about what we see.
All righty, next up, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Oh, Rob, can't hear you, man. No.
All right, Rob, we'll come back to you. Let's go to Tim May. Tim?
Just joking. I'm just moving my lips. Hey, Ryan, last week, Teradja Mitchell admitted that he dealt with some performance anxiety problems or, challenges in the past and stuff. And basically, it wasn't just that he admitted that and felt like he admitted it, but he also was able to get, help from that, help for that. And I'm just wondering, how much does that show you how far you guys have come along as a program and maybe as a sport? And I know you've pushed for those kind of issues, that a guy not only can admit it, but can get treatment for it right there within the program.
Yeah, Tim, thanks for bringing that up. I think it's really strong statement by him to talk about that. It shows his security and who he is as a person, and I think that's a strong statement, and it goes to show you that a lot of these guys suffer from that. But the fact that he's able to communicate it, ask for help, and we do have an environment here where it's talked about a good amount, that you have physical health and you have mental health. And if you're spending a lot of time on your physical health but not your mental health, you may have an issue. And so we talk about that all the time. We have support here, and it's recommended. And I've talked to the guys before and explained to them that I've spoken to people before. We all need to work on it. Yeah. And for him to not only ask for the help, but then feel confident enough to speak up and explain that he went through that. Hats off to him, and hopefully there's other people out there that hear that and are willing to ask for help.
Thanks, man.
Yep. Thank you.
All righty, Rob, you're up.
Can you hear me this time?
Got you, brother.
All right, great. It's a whole new ball game, Ryan, with quarterbacks. Can you just run us through some of the key differences and challenges between having a new guy that's never thrown a pass in a game and, say, a Justin Fields returning? From your standpoint, how do you handle that? What do you do with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is there's just not game experience. There's not a lot of practice experience. There's not a lot of snaps. And because of that, It's like when you ride a bike, you don't just jump on a bike and start riding. You fall down some, and so there's going to be growing pains along the way, and you just have to be willing to work through those. Justin had his, Dwayne had his, Joe had his, JT had his. I mean, every quarterback has their things that they work through. What you like is for them to learn through a couple of years in the program, and then by the time they get on the field, they've kind of worked through a lot of those things. Well, today's day and age, we don't have the luxury of doing that. So, these guys are going to kind of, jump 2 feet in the pool, and they just got to go and learn how to swim quickly. But like we talked about before, they're going to make mistakes, but how quickly can they learn from those mistakes? If we start to see the same mistake twice, then that's going to be an issue. And then how well do they prepare? How well can they solve the issues of the day? And I think that's so much of being a quarterback. And, when you look at the greatest there are in the game, maybe they're not the most talented, but they're certainly the most skilled and disciplined. And that's what these guys are working on now.
You've talked about this before, but is that
to Tony Gerdeman? Okay, Scoop.
Ryan, going off a little bit of what Rob's talking about, with Kyle McCord, knowing how important those game reps are and you guys not having those, are there fewer roadblocks for him to win this job than in a standard year? And how have you seen him perform so far since he's been?
I mean, it's still early, still learning the offense, and we're still installing and all that. But I mean, there's no incumbent starter, so the competition's open, and guys are competing every day. And I think the thing for those guys is the other way to look at this thing is you can't win the job in one day. You can't win the job in one throw either. You have to just build over time, and that's important to understand because I think it's easy when you're young to try to force the action and try to win the job, and that doesn't come that way. It comes over time with just a body of work, and that body of work's being built.
All righty, next up, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
All right, about the quarterbacks, has enough time passed that you can give at least kind of semi-first impressions of each of the three guys and what they've impressed with and what they need to work on?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I think they all share that they're still doing some things for the first time, and we're still on first and second down. We start installing third down on Wednesday, and then we can start getting into move-its and situational things. So they all throw the ball well. The ball comes out of their hands well. They still need to work on consistency in those areas and the different things fundamentally and technique-wise throwing it that makes them more consistent. But they certainly all throw it good enough. Now, decision-making, timing, consistency, vision, anticipation, those are all the things that come into play. And then in the end, who takes care of the ball? The guys who turn the ball over aren't going to last very long as a quarterback at Ohio State. So, those are the things we'll have to figure out. But, yeah, I mean, when you just watch them go out there and throw the ball on air, I mean, they all look the part and they all throw it really well. But now who's going to run the offense and be a leader? Because in the end, that's what quarterback's number one job is, being a leader.